So we have one more art to talk about, and it's not with J.H. Williams art, but it's with somebody who's another master of the modern form, Jock, who's an amazing artist. He's very like inky, heavy art sometimes. It's very different. They did not try to replace J.H. Williams with somebody who was the same. And we get this, it's like a David Fincher movie. I don't know, are you a David Fincher fan at all?
I like Mindhunter. Yeah. I watched Zodiac and Seven, and
it reminds me exactly of those two things. Actually, you got it at one.
Right, like and the thing is, like, it was like I was like, okay, it's a story that's going on. There's like the whole idea is there's two different. Batman is kind of looking into one case about a missing woman, and on the other hand, Batwoman is investigating a lot of kidnapping where women are actually later being released with parts of their body missing. And so they're alive, but their parts of their bodies missing, and then they're both parallel and solving the case. And as you're reading it, you're like, okay, this is like very much of a Detective Comics, as the name.
I like when Detective Comics has the cases. I think Batman is a superhero, and Detective Comics I like it when it's like figuring stuff out. It's appealing to me.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so, they're just kind of figuring things out. And then until the very last moment, do you want to reveal it?
Oh my gosh. So part of me was confused by the story a little bit, because like at points it looks like they're investigating the same murder, but then they start to talk about the different things, and like Batman's clearly investigating a woman who had a lot of money who's been kidnapped. And there doesn't seem to be like any worry that this serial mutilator is going to try to hurt her, whereas Batwoman is dealing with like a totally different thing. And you see that both of them get wounded a lot. And you're like, wow, Batman doesn't usually get stabbed quite this much generally. And then at the very apex of it, there's this moment where they both say the same name of the victim. And I remember I stopped. It's in the third issue. And I'm like turning back and forth like, wait, hold on. I thought they weren't working the same case. This is so confusing. Right. And you get in this parallel action as they're both confronting the crook, the murderer, or the mutilator. He's not really murdering anybody necessarily. Well, some of them. We realize that it is the same person. And this story is a decade apart. Batman is investigating him originally when he got obsessed with this one woman and held her captive, and she got like Stockholm syndrome and ultimately didn't want him to be caught. Then, he gets brought to justice, they get separated. Years later, they get back together because she's still in love with him from the Stockholm syndrome of being captured by him. But now she feels old and she wants to be back to who she was when they first met. And so now he's trying to like repair her face by capturing all these other women and young girls, one of whom is Batwoman's step cousin. And yeah, that moment was hella shocking. Really, what a twist. Oh my gosh.
Right. And I love that. I honestly, I always loved that in like, in not just in Batman, but in other, like in any other form, that where it's like, okay, there's two parallel stories going on, and then they just comes together, and you are like, whoa. And especially this one, I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. I think I read this twice because I wanted to look for clues, and I think I found a couple, but
it's there the whole time once you know to look for it, but it didn't scream out to you other than the parallelism of the story. Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, like, it's mostly like, oh, okay, it was happening like 2 pages at a time. But what I really liked about it is like, I always like, when Gordon gets a little sassy because Batman is like, well, I've been waiting. And he's like, well, patience is a virtue. I had a huge laugh about it.
And then it makes sense because you realize it's a younger Batman.
Yeah, but at first I thought that was probably Dick Grayson's Batman because I thought that was the case at the time. But then anyway, it really doesn't matter whether you know that or not because it's an awesome story.
Yeah. Like, I guess that would like kind of add to it kind of adds something interesting if you didn't think it was actually Bruce Wayne Batman, because then you kind of buy that he's getting hurt and all of these things are happening.
Right, but then later on you realize. But the thing is, like you said, it's a younger Batman, so that he's not, because he's like, oh, I underestimated him, and or like, kind of like it's not gonna happen again. Sorry, that's me trying to be Batman.
That's your Batman. That's your Kevin Conroy voice.
No, that's my Kevin Conroy voice, which is like so horrible. But anyway, but yeah, so it's a really like I think like to me, it was really good to have all the kind of twists and shocking and all the stuff that's coming at you from the elegy and then the Go storyline, to have that moment where you can see Batwoman be Batwoman and actually solve a case was kind of very, very entertaining, and kind of like wraps it up very well for me, and then wanting me to now go and read more New 52 Batwoman.
I guess the last question to ask about this before we wrap up is, like, how did you feel about this story? It's not part of the quintessential Batwoman origin. It's not by J.H. Williams. I was kind of dreading it, and then I loved it. How did you, and clearly we both liked it, but like, how did you feel about seeing Batwoman in her first true detective story?
And like I said, it was perfect, because I needed that after seeing her and having go through all the stuff with Alice, and then having to see her origin story. I needed to see Batwoman in action, and this kind of provides that. And I'm glad that they included that in the trade, because sometimes if they ended it in the Go storyline, then you're like, oh, okay, so what next, so but by having that, you get to see oh, okay, so she is a badass like Batman, and make you want to read more about her, and that's exactly what it did.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. The next episode is the beginning of New 52.
I got it.
Let's hold them up. So here's what we're reading next.
Here you go.
Yeah. So Hydrology and To Drown the World. J.H. Williams takes over not only as an artist, but as the co-scripter of this, along with W. Hayden Blackman. And he doesn't do all of the art, because how could J.H. Williams write and do art for an ongoing story constantly? So now we actually get to see some other artists, but writing to his script, which is really fascinating to me, because how is he going to script in a way that still looks like the way that he lays out pages? And we'll get into that in the next installment.
I'm so excited. I'm going to be reading them very soon, so I am so excited about them.
Yeah. So I want to thank everybody who's watched any or all of this massive hunk of the beginning of the Batwoman book club. So we're trying something different about not having it be live, so that we can put a little bit more thought into the discussion and not quite fly by the seat of our pants in terms of technical difficulties and things, but like that, and dig in really deep. So hopefully you're enjoying this. And if you have feedback, we'd love to hear it, because Free and I sat down yesterday and we actually planned that this could continue for months, not just with Batwoman. So we'll be back later to talk about what some of those future reading book clubs could be. But there could be definitely some more things past Batwoman in store for you in the future. Free, any closing thoughts for everybody today?
No, I mean, the closing thought would be if you haven't read it already, go for it, or if you have read it and, just continue reading more of Batwoman. It's I'm starting the journey, and enjoying it a lot, and I hope others do too.
And it actually is on mega sale right now on Comixology. If you're somebody who reads digital comic books, I think through another 2 or 3 days, I don't know, dates never make sense to me anymore, because I live in the future here in New Zealand. Right. But it's for another few days. You can get all of these collections we're talking about, including the one we talked about today, for less than $1 an issue. So it's a fantastic deal. And if you're somebody that likes to read digitally, it's a chance to have this all in your digital collection. So you don't necessarily have to order all these hardcovers and paperbacks and have them on your shelf. You can get them really affordably right now as digital comic books.
I would say that, get at least this one on your paper copy, because it's so good. If you get the physical
of this. I will, right. And I own 3 copies of it already, and I would buy an absolute, and that would be a 4th copy. We're getting to Dark Phoenix territory of how many copies of one story do I need? The answer is all of them.
I mean, the thing is, I'm not a fan of absolutes. I would buy absolutes of this.
Oh, no question.
Hands down, So yeah.
Okay, well, we almost went down another rabbit hole about J.H. Williams art, but I'm gonna hold on to that for next time and say thank you so much for watching Batwoman Book Club Week 1 here on Crushing Comics. Thank you so much.